part of the world you are watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story. I stood outside my own bedroom door, hearing my wife breathe heavily into another man's neck. I did not slam the door open. I did not shout. I did not cry. I just stood there, frozen, every part of me trained to stay silent, calm, controlled. The soft, stifled moans came in waves. The cheap jazz music she always played when she wanted to set a mood bled through the thin walls. There was laughter, a gasp, the rustle of sheets that were supposed to be mine. I was back from deployment 3 days early. I had planned to surprise her. Yes, I was the one surprised. In combat, there is a moment called the dead second. It is the moment after a bomb goes off, but before the sound hits you. That is what this felt like. I was already blown apart, but the pain had not arrived yet. I walked out of the hallway slowly, footsteps quiet like back in Kandahar. I sat at the kitchen table, turned on the overhead light, and waited. 20 minutes later, I heard her giggle, then footsteps, then silence when she saw me. "James? What are you doing home?" I looked up slowly. Her hair was messy. She was in my shirt. She smelled like sweat and cheap cologne. "You are going to lie," I said calmly. "That is what you are about to do. You are going to stand there and insult both of us by pretending this did not happen." Her eyes darted left, toward the hallway, where he was probably still buttoning up his pants. "You're scaring me," she whispered. I stood. "You have no idea what scary is." She laughed nervously. "You're being dramatic. I have watched friends bleed out in sand while calling for their mothers. You think this scares me?" Rachel's face went pale. I stepped closer, not raising my voice. "You just activated a war you do not understand." She blinked. "What does that mean?" I smiled slightly, just enough to make her shiver. "It means you are already losing." And that's when I decided I would not fight her. I would end her. But not today. Today, I let her believe she got away with it. Question: what kind of man smiles at the woman who destroyed him? The next morning, I made her breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast, just how she liked it, extra butter. She came downstairs wearing that fake smile, the same one she wore at our wedding. "Wow," she said. "You're being sweet." I poured her coffee. "You had a late night," I said casually. She blinked. Just once. A flicker of panic that she buried quickly. "Yeah, me and Lisa had a girls' night." I nodded. "She's still driving that blue Jeep?" Rachel paused mid-sip. "Yeah. Why?" "No reason. Lisa had sold the Jeep 3 months ago. I knew because I helped her move." Rachel forgot that. She smiled again. I smiled back. That was our new game now. Who can pretend harder? "Everything okay with you?" she asked. "I am great," I said. That night, I went to the garage. I took out an old metal box from under my workbench, labeled field tools. Inside were things no civilian wife should ever have access to. Tiny mics, bug trackers, voice scramblers, GPS units. Rachel thought I was weak. Thought I would break down, scream, cry, maybe even hit a wall. But I was an Army Ranger. I was trained to outthink enemies, to dismantle threats piece by piece. And now, my target was sleeping 6 feet away. I installed a mic under her car dashboard, a GPS beneath her spare tire. I kept it clean, surgical. She would never notice. Then I sat on the porch with a beer, listening to her laugh on the phone with someone named Babe. She never said his name, but soon I would. And when I did, I would not just destroy their relationship. I would dismantle their lives. "You are not going to do anything, are you?" Logan was my closest friend from the service. He and I shared more blood, sweat, and dust than I did with my own brother. "I mean, Jesus, man," he said. "She slept with someone in your own bed, and you are still living with her?" I was silent. "You're being weak," he said bluntly. "This ain't you, James. This is soft. You never used to let anyone play you like this." I looked him in the eye. "I'm not being weak. I am being patient." Logan leaned back. "Bullshit. You are letting her win." "No," I said. "She just thinks she is winning." He scoffed. "You planning something?" I nodded. Logan blinked. He knew that look. He had seen it right before I led a six-man squad into a Taliban cave system. What are you going to do? Nothing stupid, I said. Nothing illegal. Nothing violent. He raised a brow. Then what? I leaned in slightly. I'm going to let her destroy herself. And when the dust clears, I'm going to be standing clean, calm, and holding every piece of her broken life in my hands. Logan whistled. Damn. I took a long breath. She thinks she is playing games. But I do not play games. I finish wars. Logan smirked, but I saw it, the respect in his eyes. The fear, too. He knew now. I was not broken. I was loading the gun. Not a real one. A smarter one. Truth. Patience. Exposure. Rachel was not ready. But I was. And the clock had already started ticking. They say combat changes you. But what they never say is how it teaches you to disappear. Not physically, emotionally. Mentally. Tactically. When I returned from my last tour, I was not the same man. I did not flinch at loud noises. I flinched at silence. The kind of silence where things move in shadows. Where the enemy breathes inches from your back. That same silence filled my house now. Rachel still laughed. Still texted. Still kissed me on the cheek before bed. But she was not kissing me. She was kissing the idea of me. The version of me she thought had died overseas. And that is exactly what I needed her to think. She was making two mistakes. One, she underestimated what war taught me. Two, she thought I wanted her back. Let me make one thing clear. I did not want revenge because I loved her. I wanted revenge because she chose to wage war on a man trained to win them. Every night, I reviewed her GPS logs. Her car never went where she said she was. Every lie she told became another bullet in my chamber. I even followed her one evening. From a distance, of course. She met Chad in a parking garage, always public, always quick. A few kisses, some touches. She laughed like a teenager, like she was alive for the first time in years. It would have hurt if I had not already buried my feelings 6 feet under. Instead, I just watched, learned, timed every movement. She thought she was leading me around like a blind fool, but I was not blind. I was watching through a sniper scope, silent, waiting. Rachel forgot who she married. It was Sunday afternoon. Clear skies. Grilled burgers. Laughter. Rachel hosted a barbecue. Friends, neighbors, co-workers, all pretending to love the couple on the patio with matching smiles. She wore my arm like a trophy, made jokes, kissed me for photos. She looked like the dream wife. But I was already watching her burn from the inside. The most fascinating part. Her confidence. She truly believed I had no clue. That I was just another clueless husband with beer in one hand and denial in the other. And then came the moment that rewired my entire strategy. She introduced me to him. This is Chad, she said sweetly. My boss. Tall guy. Early 40s. Perfect hair. Firm handshake. But soft eyes. Weak hands. I had seen his type before. He smiled too wide. Tried to assert dominance. Made small talk about his BMW, his promotion, his CrossFit workouts. I smiled back. But mine was sharper. He said, Rachel tells me you were in the Army? Rangers, I said. Special ops? He nodded like that meant nothing. Like he did not understand the difference between infantry and elite. I could have crushed his wrist right then. But instead, I leaned in. You know what Rangers are trained for, Chad? He blinked. Not really? Precision strikes, I said. We do not waste bullets. He laughed nervously. Rachel changed the subject. But I saw it. He knew. He felt it. That I was not the man she described. I was not broken. I was quiet, on purpose. As the grill smoked and music played, I mentally circled his face in red ink. You are next, Chad. And the best part? You just shook hands with your ending. Rachel's mask started cracking that week. She became more erratic. Started double-checking where I was going. Asking odd questions. Looking at me a second too long, like trying to read something behind my calm. Her phone never left her side now. Not even in the shower. That told me everything. When liars stop getting careless, it means they feel pressure. And that meant something or someone was making her nervous. She was trying harder to control the story. She even started seducing me again, lighting candles, wearing old lingerie, asking me to stay home more. That was her guilt speaking. That was panic dressed as romance. One night, I played along. We had dinner. She laughed too loud. Said things like, "I miss this version of you." I nodded. I never changed. She paused. That made her nervous. After she went to bed, I checked her tablet. She never used it. Or so she thought. A few passwords later, I was in. Messages. Emails. Voice notes. And then, I found it. An email from her to Chad. He is starting to act different. Quiet. Like, watching me different. If anything happens, remember the plan. We flip it on him. PTSD. Mental instability. We have the screenshots ready. We can make him look like the dangerous one. I stared at the screen. This was not just infidelity. This was war. They were not just cheating. They were preparing to erase me professionally, emotionally, financially. Set me up as the monster. But they underestimated one thing. I do not lose. I do not panic. I plan. And I had just moved to the next phase, war games. The moment I saw the email, I felt my pulse slow, not rise. Because now I knew. This was not some emotional mistake. This was a strategy. They were building an exit plan, one where I was painted as the threat. But Rachel forgot what I was trained for. That night, after she fell asleep, I opened the safe in the garage. Inside were pieces of the man I used to be, and the tools I had never intended to use again. One by one, I laid them on the workbench, a mini audio transmitter the size of a quarter, a wristwatch cam that looked like a cheap gift from a gas station, a laptop with encrypted software still clean from my last mission. The next morning, I told Rachel I was going to help a neighbor with his fence. Instead, I was in her car, installing a backup GPS device, syncing it with a secure app only I could access. The mic went under her seat, a fiber cam in the rear headrest, facing forward. It took 13 minutes. That was more than enough. Later that night, she kissed me goodnight and rolled over like nothing was wrong. She even whispered, "I am glad we are getting close again." I watched her breathing slow as she fell asleep. Then I opened my laptop and listened to the last 4 hours of her day. She was on the phone with Chad at least twice. They spoke in coded phrases, but the truth was obvious. He told her, "We are good. Just make him snap. The second he does, we pull the pin." She laughed. I think he still has no clue. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the waveform of her voice on screen. No clue? You are under full surveillance. And the clock is running out. By the end of the week, I had nearly 12 hours of recordings. Most of it was casual, Rachel complaining about work, flirting with Chad, repeating how distant I was. But then, it shifted. Wednesday night, around 8:17 p.m., they met at a small, high-end lounge in the city. I had GPS confirmation and audio through her phone mic. They did not sit close, did not kiss. They looked like coworkers, if you did not know better. But I did. I spoke with the attorney, Rachel whispered. "Which one?" Chad asked. "The one who said we can argue mental instability. If James shows any aggression, we can seize the house. The accounts. I even checked. His military benefits will transfer after divorce. I just need to show he is a threat." Chad exhaled slowly. "You sure he is not catching on?" "He acts numb," she said. "Honestly, he is being so quiet. Like defeated." I almost laughed out loud. "You want me to snap, Rachel? You want a scene? That would be too easy." I stayed awake that night listening to every second, my jaw locked. This was not about love anymore. Not even betrayal. This was erasure. They wanted to take everything and leave me as a name on a restraining order. They were trying to rewrite me into their villain. But what neither of them knew was that I had already started writing my version of this ending. And in mine, they do not win. They disappear. Friday morning, Rachel handed me coffee with that same casual smile. "You sleeping okay?" she asked. "Like a rock," I said. That night, I met with Beth, a retired military psych specialist I had seen during my last tour. She owed me a favor. And she remembered how sharp I had been under pressure. Are you saying she is planning to use your PTSD against you? She asked. Exactly, I said. And she is lying about everything. I need records proving I have been cleared, stable, consistent. Beth opened her files. You have had a clean record for years, she said. In fact, I noted high emotional control on your exit eval. I leaned in. I need that documented. Signed. Certified. And I need a copy to hand to an attorney before she files first. Beth nodded. James, you always led with patience. But this? You sure you are okay? I am not angry, I said. I am precise. By Sunday, I had the documents in hand, proof I was sound, stable, and fully functional. Meanwhile, Rachel was on the phone with her sister, saying he has just been off lately. I am a little scared. That was her seeding the lie, building the story she would later weaponize. But I was already 3 steps ahead. I reached out to a law firm recommended by a fellow veteran, people who knew how to quietly build defense against smear campaigns. We started building my case under the radar. In the kitchen, Rachel kissed me on the cheek again. You were quiet lately, she said. Is everything okay? I looked her dead in the eyes. Perfect, I said. Because the more lies she stacked, the harder it would hit when it all came crashing down. By this point, I was listening to Rachel's conversations in real time. The car mic, synced to my phone, gave me front-row access to her soul. I expected lies. I expected rehearsed manipulation. What I did not expect was that she was lying to Chad, too. Tuesday afternoon. Her voice, calm, practiced. I am just feeling confused, Chad. Maybe we rushed this. James is trying harder now. I feel guilty. Chad replied, sounding irritated. You said you were all in. I know, but this is a big move. Leaving a marriage? It is scary. He went silent, then muttered something about needing to think. But the next day, she met with a third man. Not Chad. Not me. Someone new, younger. I only knew because her GPS stopped at a bar she never mentioned. 30 minutes later, I checked the feed from her car camera. She was in the front seat with a man I had never seen before. She kissed him. Slower. Different. Like this one was emotional. That moment was not just betrayal. It was leverage. Rachel was spinning a web so big she forgot who was watching. Not just a husband. A tactician. I clipped the video. Labeled it. Backed it up to 3 encrypted drives. She thought she was in control. She thought she had time. But while she was building a fantasy life through lies, I was documenting her collapse in 1080p clarity. The next phase of the plan required one thing, convincing Rachel she was winning. So I played the role. Detached. Quiet. A little forgetful. I left a box of old medals on the kitchen table. Started drinking decaf coffee and pretending I thought it was regular. Walked into her room and pretended to forget why. Rachel noticed. You all right? She asked, midweek. Just tired, I said. Head has been cloudy. She gave a fake look of concern, masking relief. I could see her thinking. It is working. She even started staying home more, like a caretaker. She cooked, smiled more, checked in. But her phone never stopped buzzing. The voice notes I intercepted were louder now. He is slipping. It is perfect. If he lashes out once, we file. I am documenting everything, just in case. Videos, texts, notes. He will never see it coming. You are right, Rachel. He will not. But I will. Then I began preparing the counterweight, the controlled burn. I met with Dr. Hale, a court-recognized trauma expert. She had treated high-profile veterans. I told her my story calmly, directly. I showed her the documents, the recordings, the timeline. She looked at me across her desk and said, You are either the most composed patient I have had in years, or the most dangerous. Maybe both, I said. Dr. Hale agreed to write a preemptive evaluation, mental wellness report, trauma resilience assessment, and a formal warning about emotional abuse manipulation strategies often used by cheating spouses. All official. All court admissible. The moment Rachel tried to flip the script, I would flip it harder, with facts. And when she finally pulled the trigger, She would realize it was a trap I built months ago. I started writing it at 3:12 a.m. One column, 2 rows. What she took, what I will reclaim. It began simple. Time, trust, money, dignity, peace, but then it expanded. She did not just take from me. She rewrote me behind my back. To her friends, I was unstable. To her sister, I was angry. To her new men, I was a mistake. And to herself, I was already gone. But I was right here, watching, calculating. I spent the rest of that week laying the last stones. Bank accounts? I moved the majority of joint funds into a protected trust, under my name, locked with legal backing. My lawyer filed it under asset protection. House deed? Rechecked. I was the only name on title. Her contribution was never filed. I switched insurance beneficiaries, rerouted my direct deposit, even installed a new home camera system, under the guise of safety, of course. Rachel said, "Wow, you're getting organized." "I guess old habits are coming back," I replied. She smiled. Thought I was healing. But I was not healing. I was arming myself. And the last thing on that list? Pride. Because she thought I was broken. She thought she cracked the soldier inside me. But what she never saw, what she will never forget, is that Army Rangers do not break. We reload. I called it Operation Riptide for a reason. In combat, a riptide pulls you under without warning. You think you are floating until your lungs scream and there is no surface in sight. That is exactly what I was building. The first wave began with paperwork. I had my lawyer file for a legal separation under false pretenses, stating that I suspected emotional and financial manipulation. It was done quietly through a proxy firm. Rachel would not even know until it became public record. 48 hours later. The second wave? Social exposure. I sent an anonymous packet to her company's compliance department. Inside, photos of her meeting Chad at hotels during business hours, voice recordings suggesting misuse of corporate travel cards, and an anonymous letter reading, "You might want to review how your senior accounts director spends her lunch breaks." The third wave came that night. Rachel came home in heels, phone glued to her hand. She kissed my cheek, routine now, and tossed her purse on the couch. "You know," she said, "things finally feel normal again. I really think we are getting better." I nodded. "You deserve normal." She smiled like she had one. I had never seen someone walk toward a landmine smiling. The next morning, she woke up to a locked bank app. "I cannot get in," she said, frowning. Did something happen? I sipped my coffee. Calm. Clean. I froze joint access. Just temporary. "Legal stuff." She blinked hard. "Legal stuff?" "Yeah," I said. "We can talk about it this week." Her jaw twitched, but she forced a smile, and I could see it. She had no idea where the hit even came from. That is what a riptide feels like. It was time to dismantle Chad, piece by piece. I needed leverage, evidence, something that made him panic and distance himself from Rachel without warning her. So I used what we were trained for in recon behavioral bait. Using a burner phone and a fake LinkedIn profile, I posed as Melissa Trent, a freelance contractor with fake credentials from a real company. I messaged Chad under the pretense of a hiring opportunity and consulting pitch. He responded within 30 minutes. Classic. I played slow, professional. I hinted at backdoor contracts, tax advantages, quiet partnerships. Within a week, Chad had agreed to meet with Melissa in person. Of course, Melissa did not show up. But two other people did, a woman from HR and a private investigator from his own firm, tipped off anonymously. You see, Rachel thought she had partnered with a smart man, but she picked someone greedy, and greed makes you sloppy. Chad was already under review for suspicious billing practices. All I had to do was pour gasoline. By Thursday, he stopped replying to Rachel. By Friday, he unfollowed her on Instagram. Saturday night, she stormed around the kitchen. "Something is off with Chad," she said. "He is avoiding me." I looked up from the couch. "Maybe he is just busy." She stared at me. "Busy?" "He said he needed me." Now nothing. No messages. No calls. Maybe he got what he wanted. She went quiet. Because deep down, she knew. She had been played. And I just sipped my beer. Another wave pulled her under. Even a soldier needs allies. Mine were just harder to find, the kind that operate in silence, far from courtrooms or attention. I called Connor Blake, a cybersecurity expert I served with overseas. He had once hacked a satellite under enemy fire. He owed me a life. Now I was calling it in. You really want this guy scrubbed? He asked over an encrypted call. I want his emails, deleted texts, company logs, all collected. Quietly, Connor whistled low. You trying to ruin him? No, I said. I want to give him the chance to ruin himself. Within 48 hours, Connor had access to Chad's entire email history. What we found was more than gold. It was nuclear. Chad had been billing his company for hotel rooms, private dinners, and consulting fees, all related to Rachel. Even better? He was talking to 2 other women on company time, using official resources. Connor packaged everything. I uploaded it to a private link. Then I sent it directly to Rachel's company board anonymously. Monday morning came like a thunderstorm. Rachel burst into the house at 3 p.m., heels in her hand, hair disheveled. They fired me. I kept my voice even. What? They said there was a conflict of interest. That someone sent photos. I do not even know how they found out. She was pacing, panicked. I built everything there. 8 years. Gone. I stood slowly. Looked at her the same way I looked at collapsing walls overseas. What did you expect, Rachel? She looked at me, truly looked. And for the first time, she saw it. That this version of me was not broken. It was rising. She did not speak to me for 3 days. After the termination, Rachel stayed locked in the bedroom. I could hear her pacing, whispering into the phone, and crying into her pillow. I stayed downstairs, making coffee, playing music, living as if I were not watching every crack widen beneath her. Then came the final blow. Friday morning, 7:41 a.m. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs showering. I glanced. Chat message failed to send, number no longer in service. I picked up her phone and tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Disconnected. By the time she walked into the kitchen, towel in hand, I was sipping coffee. Where is your golden boy? I asked casually. She froze. What do you mean? I mean, Chad's number is dead. His LinkedIn profile is gone. He wiped his Instagram. No contact. No warning. She looked down slowly, then walked to her phone and checked it herself. I watched the moment reality pierced her fantasy. The confusion. The denial. The creeping panic. He would not just disappear. I shrugged. Yes, he did. She stared at me. You know something. I know a lot of things, Rachel. But that is just karma. She clenched her jaw. He loved me. No, I said, standing. He used you. You were a distraction from his real life. And now that things got messy? He took the parachute. Her eyes glistened. You think this is funny? I think it is just the beginning. I walked out of the room as she broke down behind me, sobbing like the victim she pretended to be. The woman who tried to erase me was starting to feel what it meant to be erased. A cornered animal is the most dangerous. And that was exactly what Rachel became. She stopped pretending to be sweet. The fake kisses vanished. The nervous smiles turned sharp. She started pushing buttons, leaving messes around the house, snapping over small things, challenging everything I said. She wanted me to explode. She needed me to. Because without that, her James's unstable narrative had no legs. That Sunday, I walked in from a run to find my military shadow box, medals, citations, my ranger tab shattered on the floor. She stood nearby, arms crossed. I dropped it, she said coldly. I looked at the broken glass. My father had built that frame before he died. My silver star lay cracked in two. I walked past her silent. She followed. Nothing to say, she hissed. You just let me break your life into pieces and walk away. I turned. Is that what you think you are doing? Her voice rose. You are nothing but a cold, empty shell. This house is dead. This marriage is dead. You should have stayed gone. I stepped closer, my voice even. You want me to yell? Shove you? Snap? That is what this is. You want footage. Her eyes flickered. You think I do not see the cameras? You installed them too fast, Rachel. Wrong angles. Wrong height. Your framing is off. Amateur work. She flinched. I leaned in. You want to trap a ranger with a ring cam? She had nothing to say. But that night, she made one final move. At 2:06 a.m., I heard the knock. Police. 2 officers. Sir, we have a report of potential domestic disturbance. Your wife said she feels unsafe. I nodded. Calm. Handed them a folder. Signed evaluation. Medical clearance. Copies of her emails. Transcripts of phone calls. Footage from my camera showing her yelling, breaking property, and trying to provoke me. The officer scanned it all, then looked up. Sir, would you like to file a counter-report? I shook my head. No. I would like to walk away the right way. As they left, Rachel stood frozen by the door. And she knew. Her final bullet had misfired. It started slowly. Her sister stopped returning texts. Then her work friends vanished from her social media. Group chats she once led were silent. Dinners were canceled. Invitations stopped coming. The story had changed, and she was no longer the heartbroken wife. She was the liar who tried to ruin a war hero. I made no public statements. I posted no pictures. I played no victim. But the people around her? They were smarter than she thought. One of her coworkers anonymously leaked screenshots from her work emails. The ones where she told Chad that I was the insurance policy and that she was playing house for a payout. Another person, a woman from our church group, texted me privately. We had no idea. If you ever need anything, my husband and I are here. Rachel spiraled. She begged to talk, to fix it. She apologized, not because she was sorry, but because she was alone. I told her, you ended this the day you started planning my funeral while I was still breathing. She tried therapy. It lasted 2 sessions. She tried her family. They said, fix it yourself. And then came the final twist of the knife. She applied for a new job. The hiring manager? My former platoon brother's wife. One background check later, the offer was pulled. Rachel stormed into the living room that night. You're ruining my life. I looked up from my book. I am just standing still while it collapses. Her voice cracked. You want me to suffer? No, I said quietly. I want you to understand what you did. And from the silence that followed, I think she finally did. Wait, if this story gave you chills or made you think twice about trust, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button to support the channel and subscribe if you never want to miss another jaw-dropping tale. We drop new stories every week that'll leave you speechless. To everyone who's already subscribed, sending you heartfelt love and thanks. Join the family, because here, every story hits different. Now, let's dive back into the story. Courtrooms do not feel like justice. They feel like chessboards, and I had already won the opening game. Rachel walked in wearing a black suit, hair neat, makeup clean. She brought tears in her eyes. She brought fake text messages. She brought a pre-written statement about how she was emotionally abused by a man broken from war. Her lawyer stood with his hand on her shoulder like she was a victim of violence, not someone who tried to weaponize a uniform she never wore. I sat calm, alone, papers in my hand, facts in my back pocket. The judge asked her to speak first. She told stories, all lies. How I had grown distant, how I refused help, how I threw things, how I scared her. She wept on cue. Shaky hands, trembling voice. When it was my turn, I walked to the stand without notes. I was married to a woman who thought love was a tool, I began. She cheated. She lied. She planned to destroy me financially and psychologically. I did not react. I documented. And I am here with evidence, not emotion. I handed over everything. GPS data. Audio recordings. Her email to Chad planning my downfall. A psychologist's evaluation clearing me of any emotional instability. The judge read silently, then looked up. Ma'am, how do you explain this? Rachel's face went pale. I was scared. Scared, the judge repeated. Or caught. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, but the damage was done. I walked out of the courtroom with full asset control. House, vehicle, military pension, bank access. She walked out with nothing but shame. And when we passed each other in the hallway, she would not even look me in the eye. I did not say a word, because the truth already spoke louder than she ever could. While Rachel was drowning in court documents, Chad was facing a different storm. Corporate fraud, embezzlement, internal ethics violations. You see, I had given his company everything. Connor, my cyber ally, had dug through years of transactions. I packaged the evidence into a secure drive, mailed it anonymously to Chad's HR department, and then tipped off a regulatory compliance officer. Within 10 days, an official investigation began, and Chad, the polished executive, began to crack. He tried to delete emails, tried to explain away hotel bills and gift card purchases labeled as client meetings. But they had it all. Voice notes, bank statements, video stills from hotel security cameras with timestamps. Then came the subpoena. By the time Rachel found out, it was already in the news. Local financial officer investigated for fraud, allegations tied to workplace relationship. I heard her scream from the hallway. She stormed into the living room, phone in hand, screen flashing with headlines. What did you do? I looked at her. I gave the truth to the people who deserved to hear it. You ruined his life. No, he did. She threw her phone against the wall. It shattered. You think this makes you better than me? I stood slowly. No, Rachel. This makes me free. And the best part? Chad never called her. Never stood up for her. Never defended her once. She was just another liability to him. And now? She was alone in every direction. Weeks passed. No more fights. No more speeches. Rachel barely left her room. I stopped asking if she would. I stopped caring. Then one afternoon, I stopped at a gas station, one of those quiet highway stops where the air smells like oil and cigarettes. As I walked out with a cold drink in hand, I saw her. Rachel, hair tied up, hoodie faded, filling gas in a rusted Honda Civic that coughed with every drop. She looked up, caught my eyes. For a second, I saw the old version of her, the one that thought she was untouchable. Now she looked like she had aged 10 years and 3 months. I walked past her, calm, unbothered. She opened her mouth like she wanted to speak, like maybe she had something left to say. But I never stopped walking. Some things do not need to be said. Some goodbyes come in silence. I got in my truck, drove off, windows down, music on, not a word spoken, not a glance back, because I was not the one who left this marriage broken. She was the one who tried to burn down a soldier's life and forgot what fire does when it turns. I was loading up my truck with firewood when I saw Logan pull into the driveway. It had been weeks since the last time we talked, the day he called me weak. He stepped out, wearing his old military hoodie, hands in his pockets. James, he said, nodding. Logan. He walked over and stood beside the truck bed, looking at the stacked wood like it had answers. I heard what happened. The court stuff. The fallout. The company takedown. I said nothing. He scratched his beard. You really played the long game, huh? I did what needed to be done. There was a pause. Heavy. Real. I owe you an apology, he said finally. Back when I said you were soft, weak. I did not get it. I thought silence meant surrender. But that was something else. I looked at him. You thought I was bleeding. But I was loading rounds. He smiled, sad and proud at once. She tried to take everything from you, man. And you left her with nothing but the echo of her own lies. That is Ranger level. I nodded. Logan pulled something from his pocket, a small patch. An old one from deployment. I saved this. Thought I might give it to you one day. I took it. Felt the weight of the years in my hand. Thanks. You good now? He asked. I am getting there. He turned to leave, then stopped. You really never yelled? Never hit back? Never even lost your temper? I shook my head. Pain is temporary. Truth is forever. He walked away slowly, shaking his head like he had just watched a ghost walk out of a war zone. But I was not a ghost. I was alive. And free. It arrived on a Tuesday. A plain white envelope, no return address, dropped in Rachel's mailbox at the rundown apartment she now rented across town. Inside was a letter, written in clean, deliberate cursive, no anger, just honesty. Rachel, you do not know me, but I know who you are. I am Chad's wife. I knew for a while. About the affair. About the lies. I stayed silent, the same way James did. But where he fought back, I chose peace. And I left Chad, quietly. Took our kids. Took my name. But I want you to know something. You were not special. You were not chosen. You were convenient. Chad said once, she is reckless. I can control her. You burned your house down for a man who never once looked back when it started to collapse. And now? You are standing in the ashes, wondering why it is cold. You thought James was weak. But weakness is not silence. Weakness is betrayal. And it always comes back around. Rachel sat on the edge of her mattress, hands shaking. For the first time, she felt it, not just the consequences, but the full weight of how little she ever mattered to the man she destroyed her life for. And worse, how deeply she had misjudged the man who only ever tried to love her. She crumpled the letter, threw it across the room, but it was too late. The silence in that room? That was not regret. It was truth finally settling in. The cabin sat at the edge of the woods, where the road stopped pretending to be paved and the signal bars disappeared completely. It was not fancy, just enough space for silence. A porch swing, a fireplace, and peace. Real peace. I have been coming here every weekend for a month now, chopping wood, fixing floorboards, making black coffee with nothing but a kettle and old habit. And every time I stepped out into the trees, I breathed just a little easier. There were no more cameras, no more lawyers, no more pretending. Rachel was gone, legally, emotionally, entirely. I heard she moved again, changed her last name, looking for jobs that would never call back. Me? I was rebuilding quietly, the same way I had dismantled her world. But I was not bitter. Not anymore. Because once the war ends, once the battlefield is silent, you have two choices. You carry the weight, or you drop it and walk forward. One night, as the sun dipped behind the trees, I sat on the porch swing and pulled out that old metal box from the garage. The same one I had opened when this all began. Inside it now were only two things: a folded-up copy of the divorce decree and the list I made at 3:12 a.m. months ago, now fully crossed out time. Trust, pride, peace, all reclaimed. The final entry, written in ink, read, self, because that is what she almost stole. But I took it back, one move at a time. As the wind rustled the leaves, I closed my eyes and let it go. Not her. Not the pain. The war. It was over. And for the first time in years, I was home. This is what an Army Ranger's revenge looks like. Let me tell you what revenge really looks like. It is not screaming in someone's face. It is not breaking their phone or slashing tires or posting dirty laundry online. No. Revenge, real revenge, is patience. It is silence so loud that the guilty hear it in their sleep. It is standing tall while someone builds lies around you, and then watching the truth knock it all down. It is giving them the rope and letting them tie their own noose. You see, they called me weak for letting her go. They thought walking away was surrender. But what they never saw was that I never walked away empty-handed. I walked away with everything they could not take: my integrity, my discipline, my power, my peace. She thought she destroyed a soldier, but she only reminded him what he was built for. And now? Now I live clean, quiet, free. That is what an Army Ranger's revenge looks like. Not bullets, not blood, but balance. Let me leave you with this. How many people in your life think your silence is weakness? How many think they have you fooled when you were simply watching? And the real question is, when the time comes, will you be ready to let karma speak louder than you ever could? Lesson of the story. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is not to react, but to rebuild. Not to burn them down, but to rise above what they thought you could never survive. Revenge is not chaos, it is clarity. And peace is not given, it is earned. If this story hit your heart, Tell me, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I want to know. And if you felt every twist, every emotion, if you were right there with James the whole way, then do one thing, like the video. Subscribe, because the next story, it is going to be darker, deeper, deadlier. We will meet again in the next thriller. Until then, take care of your peace. Protect it like a soldier.